Grief. A light topic to speak into. I was fortunate enough to speak to a good friend of mine who told me that someone we went to university with recently passed. Now, we are not yet in our 40s, late 30s, and to know someone who lived 2 doors down, even though I didn't have a very deep relationship with them, is now only with us in memory and in spirit. It certainly gave pause for thought, partly because grief has been very present with me this last year. The loss of a pregnancy was not something that I had experienced before, and I didn't appreciate the grief that left energetically in my body, because the last time grief touched my life, it looked and felt very, very different. Now, maybe you've lost someone. Maybe it was recent. Maybe it was a while ago now. But it leaves a scar, or samskāra in Sanskrit. And we all have these anthology of scars that we carry. The experiences that we live navigating the complexity of being a human being, they leave their impressions. And losing someone, whether it's someone we went to university with or a child that we never got to hold in our hands or have a conversation, a dialogue with, it creates impact. And I was grateful to my dad for pointing out to me eventually that I'd not given the spaciousness to grieve. And he was correct. And that's because I didn't know that I was in grief. When grief touched my life for the first time, it was what you might bring to mind when you hear the word grief. Breaking down in front of friends, crying on the phone to loved ones, petrified on my yoga mat. The space that was my haven, my sanctuary, became my graveyard. I turned to stone. I'd make it 10 minutes into my practice before I'd become immobile and just sit there, sob there, lie there, inactive, unable to muster the strength, enthusiasm, and energy to do the thing that at the time I loved more than anything, really, to do, which was to move my body, to enjoy my practice, to get upside down. Grief had a similar impact on me when we lost Satya, Grace. But I didn't realize. Because whilst grief in my eyes looked like sobbing and deep emotional turmoil, I realized it can also look like a disconnect, a disassociation, an apathy for life, not wanting to engage. When I removed myself from the world, I hid in my metaphorical cave so that I didn't have to deal. But this impacted not just my mental, emotional, physical well-being, but also my relationship and my business, my ability to look after myself and my family. And all of this to say that if you are experiencing or have experienced loss, losing someone, even if you don't feel the pangs of emotional turmoil that grief typically looks like, that's not to say that there isn't something worth processing. There isn't something lingering in the background waiting to be acknowledged and moved through. In Tantric teachings, everything is śakti, which is energy, vibration, spanda, the vibrating nature of reality. Consciousness being just that in various permutations and densities of oscillation. The more slowly the cycle of the vibration, the more dense the object becomes. All of this to say that the mind is considered the least tangible aspect of the body, and the body the most tangible aspect of the mind, but they're not separate. They are the same, just in different states of vibration. Which means when we experience the world, it impacts not just our mind, but the layer below that, the subconscious. Which is the third layer of the word, the visionary level of the word in Tantric teachings. This is the layer of the layer where what we experience is influenced by. And gosh, it's difficult to express. Let me try my best. We're a blank canvas when we're born. And as we navigate through life, we have experiences. Some of these experiences we let go. Some of them we hold on to. Some of them we're not even aware that we hold on to until something impacts our life and plucks at the string of that scar that's been imprinted on our subconscious. It's called samskāras. What's required is massaging out these mental, emotional, energetic knots that our psyche, our consciousness holds on to. And when we don't, these energetic scars can solidify and over time create dis-ease. Perhaps you've experienced this, the mental, emotional knots that I held the first time I experienced grief led to a depression and led to some poor decisions in my life. And the value of not just identifying the thoughts that fuel the emotions, that inspire the actions, which ingrain the habits, which create the reality that we live in, but rewriting the ones that don't serve us, getting to the underlying subconscious, the belief constructs that we hold in place of truths we haven't yet lived. So there's two states that we can operate in: belief or truth. A belief is a proxy for a truth that we haven't yet experienced. And wisdom is truth, knowledge embodied. It's knowledge converted into embodied experience. The idea of mantra is that it purifies, perhaps purifies can bring up certain connotations, but it cleanses the mind through the layers so that we can realign back with reality. It said suffering is ignorance to the truth of what is. And we suffer because we believe something that isn't true, isn't in alignment with reality. We hold it as our own personal believed truth, but that's not to say it is actually in alignment with life. By experiencing the pain that you're suffering, it's not a punishment. That's not how Tantra works. It's an invitation, a recognition point that there is a misalignment, and an invitation to identify, to integrate, and to realign. So if you are experiencing the pain of loss, whether that's the loss of a pregnancy, the loss of a child, the loss of a parent, friend, anyone, my sympathy, my empathy, an invitation to share their name in the description, to let them live on through you, to share something that you loved about them, that you continue to love about them in memory. And to see it as a choice. A choice to not let go of them, but to hold on to the part of yourself that they evoked through you. This is essentially why so many feel so distraught when we lose a love or a life, because we're under the misconception that we've lost them and that we won't get to experience ourselves, the part of us that they brought out. But really, what is grief if not love persevering? And that gets to be a beautiful thing to celebrate rather than lament. I am of the strong volition and belief that grief gets to be celebratory, not just distress. It gets to be beautiful. It gets to be enjoyed. And finding laughter and joy and celebration through grief is the path I choose, rather than spiraling into depression and getting lost in that space. I've been in that space several times now. I know how painful it is and how you don't honor them by losing yourself. One of the things that helped me with moving through the grief of losing Satya, Grace, was getting to create the relationship with her that never came into this timeline, which was actually a really beautiful practice. I share some of this. I see a Miko approaching. Hey, buddy. Now, last time, you nearly knocked over my camera. If we could not do that this time, that would be great. In the Prem short story book that I synthesized, and it doubles up as a grief integration guide. In that, hey buddy, I go through the stages of grief and offer a way to... Do you want to get in there? And offer a way to consciously move through them so that you can alchemize the grief that you're experiencing, if it is sadness and something that you're not particularly enjoying, into something more empowering. There is a link to that in the description. There's a free sample, so go check it out. If you like the whole thing, then there's a way to get the whole thing. If you're a guy and you've gone through the loss of a pregnancy, that is challenging. And if you feel like you're okay, celebrations to you. If you haven't fully gone through a grief process, then I would highly recommend it, because if you're like me, you may not recognize how it's impacting you, because it might not be presenting itself. However, taking the opportunity to process the grief, particularly if you're experiencing challenge in your relationship, can create the spaciousness for change. And we can't see what we're not aware of. And so having someone, whether it's me or someone else, to go on that journey with you and to illuminate what's been missed creates a real difference. So if that's something that you're interested in, please get in contact, because I know how challenging this can be. And couldn't help myself. Hey, buddy. I didn't realize that you don't have to do it alone. And then it gets to be beautiful. So I'll leave it there. Sending you a lot of love, and looking forward to hearing from you if that feels in alignment.